Now,
on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app.
O'Connor and Company.
Well, good morning, one and all. Happy Friday, or as Patrice says.
Happy Friday.
Happy Friday. Happy Friday, Patrice.
Happy Friday, Andrew.
Thank you. It is. Yes, we have. More or less. I'm still not sure we've made it yet. It's 5:07 on News Talk 105.9 WMAL. We are making sense of the news. I am Andrew Langer, in for Larry O'Connor, sitting alongside Patrice Onwuka. It's always glorious to spend a Friday with you, Patrice.
Oh, thank you. Same here, Andrew. Same here.
The double dose of Patrice this week. We got a jam-packed show as we always do. Today we've got Tristan Levitt, president of Empower Oversight. He represents IRS whistleblower Gary Shapley. We're going to discuss Hunter Biden. Also going to be talking, I think, about what's going on with the Inflation Reduction Act and the expansion of government. Biden admitting that yesterday. Bram Weinstein is going to be joining us to talk about the Washington Commanders, to preview the game over the weekend because it is football season. And we've got Neil Parrott, who's running for Congress in Maryland's 6th Congressional District. He's got the latest. Well, we're going to talk to him about the latest polling. It's a neck and neck race. And speaking of which, of it being a neck and neck race, we're going to be talking about the presidential race quite a bit today, Patrice. Another day. We are just about 2 months out from Election Day itself, though early voting begins soon. And, of course, with another day going by in this compressed presidential campaign with Kamala Harris as the Democratic nominee, we get yet another flip-flop from Madame Vice President. Listen, I think you're the same way. Well, first of all, I rarely use straws these days anyway because I'm a guy. But
wait a minute. What is that supposed to mean?
Guys should not use straws. Unless you're using, unless you're at McDonald's or Burger King, men should not use straws. So
you can't sip your beer through a straw?
You absolutely can't sip a beer through a straw. No, that's actually a scientific fact. You're not supposed to drink beer through a straw. I mean, I'm not a beer drinker, but you're absolutely no. Listen, I know by the way, I'm at Andrew_Langer on Twitter. You can flame me for saying this. The point is, when I go some places, I'll tell you, I won't throw the restaurant under the bus. Okay. There is a very famous faster food place. It's a chili dog place in D.C. That I like to go to. Mm-hmm. They have paper straws. You cannot drink a milkshake through a paper straw. Like a milkshake, you have to drink with a straw for the most part. Paper straws, you can't do it. Well, Kamala Harris had said in 2019 that she wanted to ban plastic straws. Now she's not so much saying it anymore. Axios asked the Harris campaign. I'm sorry, the Harris campaign, because Kamala Harris isn't saying anything about anything. She doesn't support banning plastic straws, the campaign officials said. I mean, you and I were talking about this. You clearly
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, listen, I am a huge plastic straw fanatic. In my house, we always have at least 2 or 3 packs of them. I buy them anywhere I see them because my kids, I have kids who are just emerging from the toddler phase. So that means that we need to put plastic straws in everything to help them drink their tea, drink their colder beverages. I do a lot of media on TV, and I can't mess up my lips while I'm drinking my water, so I have to use a straw in my little mini water bottle. We use a lot of straws, and the worst thing, and I'm a huge tea drinker, and the worst thing is trying to drink your tea on a 2-hour flight, a hot tea with a paper straw. It is impossible to even get to the gate with the straw intact. So that's why I love and support plastic straws. And as a good American, I believe that we should have the right to choose what type of straw we drink out of, whether it's bamboo, which is nuts to me, or steel, or metal, which is even crazier, or just good old plastic, which is reliable, durable, and just a great stand-in. If you like paper, go for it. But Kamala Harris should not be telling me that I can't get plastic straws to drink my tea or for my kids to be able to use so they can consume their beverages safely.
I'm wondering, you and I talked about this last week, the imagery of the picture of Kamala Harris doing the interview, right?
Yes,
okay.
That's right.
And
1 week ago, yeah.
The cup of water, and then I'll tell my story in a second about having, me not using straws and what happens. Kamala Harris, if you all go, there's a really great picture. I'll tweet this picture out of at the table under Kamala Harris's chair, and the interview in the cafe in Savannah, Georgia. There's a cup of water with a straw in it, and I'm wondering if someone saw this plastic straw in the cup and said, "Hey,
Ooh.
Kamala, you said you wanted to ban plastic straws." Yet there's a plastic straw in your cup. How come you're not putting your money where your mouth is? Of course, the immediate answer would be, well, I'm in Savannah. Who knows what they do down there? So I had this happen. I don't know if I mentioned this. So I did an interview with some international press, a TV thing talking about the election. And I have my cup. I'm going to hold up I have my your
tumbler?
My tumbler.
Yeti?
My Yeti. It's a Yeti knockoff. Maybe that's the problem. And I promptly took a swig of my water, and I promptly spilled water all over my shirt.
Oh no!
When in the middle of the interview, we actually stopped the interview, it dried me off, and maybe that's it. Maybe that's why I do need to re-embrace straws. But you're right. I mean, these are all situational. But that's exactly it. It is. I mean, let's not forget the paper consumption that goes into this. But the idea, this is what the left has been wanting and pushing. They want to make life harder for everyday Americans. They want to rob you of your joy, where you're having to, after 10, 15 minutes, sip your Diet Coke through a soggy paper straw, which also imparts its own flavor to this. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, listen, so we've seen a lot of different cities and states start to ban plastic straws going back to 2018. I believe Seattle was the first city to do so. And over the years, it's become one of those progressive banner issues to demonstrate that you somehow love the climate or love the environment. Although we know that the biggest contributor to oceanic pollution is not plastic straws from the United States, it is China, not surprisingly. But this is it's a virtue signal to seem like you're doing something important, and obviously for government to flex its muscles over the masses until they got a hold of the pandemic power that they could then really wield. But you know what? Until I see Kamala Harris actually herself and not just some surrogate or campaign spokesperson say, oh no, she doesn't believe in it. I want President Trump to walk out on the stage on Tuesday with a hot cup and a plastic straw in it and say, oh yeah, by the way, what's your stance on this? I would love to see her. And if she says, oh yeah, we need to ban plastic straws, hit her on that. And if she says, oh, I don't believe in banning plastic straws, hit her on that.
Right.
Why the flip-flop all of a sudden? And then pivot into all of the other flip-flops she's done. So I think this is a really fun, but really illustrative. Oh, I can't get the word out today.
I get it.
It really illustrates. Illustrative. Thank you. Way of demonstrating how she has flip-flopped.
WMAL.
Making sense of the news.
Live
from the Home Paramount Pest Control Studios.
Home Paramount, the leader in pest control since 1939.
Plastic straws are a big thing right now.
Yeah.
Do you ban plastic straws?
I think we should. Yes. I mean, look, I'm going to be honest. It's really difficult to drink out of a paper straw when if you don't gulp it down immediately, it starts to bend.
Yes.
And then, the little thing catches it. And then, so we got to kind of perfect that one a little bit more.
So you'd ban it, but rely on innovation.
I mean, we got it. Yeah, innovation is a process, right? You don't just do it. Innovation is a process, but let's encourage innovation, and I think we could do a little bit better than some of those flimsy plastic straws. But we do need to ban the plastic.
We do need to ban it, but not now. And I'm going to laugh about it because whatever. And that's the thing is that the virtue signaling. You're right, Patrice. It is virtue signaling. But you've got the problem is that people take this stuff seriously. Some people take this seriously, as our good friend Phil Kerpen points out. DC has 3 full-time straw cops on the beat to enforce the straw ban. And there's a tip line. You can, if a restaurant is using plastic straws, you can go snitch on them. Yes, it is true here. I mean, this is the craziness.
Well, oh my goodness! Did they get that snitch line idea from Tim Walz?
Yes, they must have, or vice versa.
Or vice versa. So this is what sticks out to me. And by the way, our good gal friend Julie Gunlock, she has written at IWF a lot on plastic bans. And I've got her great stat here. 90% of the trash in our oceans comes from Asia and Africa, not the United States. Thank you, Julie. But here's what we learn about a lot of these power-hungry liberals or progressives. No, liberals. They're not progressing us anywhere. They are taking us back to the Stone Age before we had plastic straws. No, what they want to do is, number one, control your behavior, control what you can consume, control the choices that you have. So if they can't directly ban something, as you and I were talking about yesterday, they will find ways to constrict the production of it, make it so costly to produce, so costly to, or hard to produce, then you don't see it on the shelves anymore. And they're saying that it's to advance some great goal that's to help better society. No, it's not. It's actually all just a cover-up, for China. Surprise, surprise.
Right.
It's a cover-up for the actual bad actors. And they want to turn us regular folks just trying to give our kids their morning tea without spilling it on themselves, through plastic straws. They want to turn me and my family into the boogeyman, into the bad guy. This is what we're up against. And while I love talking about plastic straws in the morning, it is indicative of the bigger issue with a Kamala Harris, with a Tim Walz, and all of those folks that don't believe in personal choice and freedom and autonomy. This is what they're about. They're about making you bend your knee in every way to their will.
That's exactly it. They want you off, out of your suburban home, out of your car, into a city, into an apartment, using mass transit on their schedule, an air conditioning system that they use, with an electricity system in your apartment that feeds into their central meters that can be shut off whenever the electricity demand is too high. Charging your car on a separate, all of these very, very specific things. And this is why the overall ideology is so dangerous, right? If you look through and what Kamala has said and what Tim Walz has said and done, it is all about command and control, all about dictating what is out there here. Listen, obviously she's never gonna answer this particular question. And I'm going to, by the way, we got to put this up on social media, by the way. I do think that this question must stem from the fact that she used a plastic straw. Oh, and the overall point, I'm sorry, Patrice, we missed this. Because, of course, for the liberal elites, it's also about do as I say, not as I do. Because they don't have to comport with this, because they can afford this. They can live in a society where they have their own security, or they're behind a wall, or they can afford the gas, or they can afford the plastic straws, or all of these things. They do not have to live with the decisions that they make, do they?
Well, just remember, during the pandemic, Nancy Pelosi, she was getting her hair done at a closed-down salon, but everyone else couldn't get their haircuts. Let's not forget that the well-coiffed Governor Gavin Newsom was sitting down at his swanky restaurant with his friends and buddies, chuckling it up, while restaurant owners couldn't reopen for the regular public to go and sit down and have a meal after they'd been cooped up in a house for months and months on end.
Yeah, Brandon Scott in Baltimore shutting down stores in Baltimore City and then going out to Baltimore County to do his shopping. We've got so much more to get to. Right now it's 5:23 on WMAL. So, Patrice, we knew that the Inflation Reduction Act was not actually about using lowering inflation, and we've seen the numbers, the billions of dollars that were going. I know they were raiding Medicare.
Yes,
to the tune of $250 billion. And we knew that they were using it to fund the Green New Deal. Well, yesterday, President Biden was in Westby, Wisconsin, and he said the quiet part out loud. He intentionally, unintentionally, you don't know with Joe Biden these days. Who knows how much longer Joe Biden's going to be president, but at least he's still president nominally. Here's what he had to say. Let's hear cut number 2.
My investments, through my investments, the most significant climate change law ever, and by the way, it is a $369 billion bill. It's called we should have named it what it was, but at any rate.
Yeah, he had to catch himself there, Patrice. I mean, listen, I don't know what is where. You're right. He didn't want to. Oh my God! Wait a minute. He had that moment in the middle of the sentence. Oh my God! I just admitted that the Inflation Reduction Act was actually should have been called the Green New Deal, and no, there it is. I mean, you love it when Joe Biden's at this stage in his life where he's admitting these things. It would have been nice again. Yeah, I think he's right. He should have admitted it. He should have named it what it was.
Don't lie to the American people.
Yes.
Well, let's not just. It wasn't just that they mislabeled this bill.
Right.
They intentionally deceived the American people, and particularly they deceived Joe Manchin in West Virginia because they wanted his vote on this bill to get it passed. Remember, he was the one holdout again for the Build Back Better vote, and it was about reducing inflation. And so they said, well, let's just slap the Inflation Reduction name on it, full and well knowing that it was never about that. It was just about climate bond, climate subsidies for rich folks. That's all it was really about. And so, the funny thing is that President Biden has mentioned this before. He's like, oh, I wish we hadn't named it that because that wasn't really what it was about. I wish he had said that when they were trying to peddle this on the Capitol Hill as inflation reducing, when he himself claimed that it was inflation reducing. So, if he's being truthful now, it's about time, but too late.
Yeah, it's all too little, too late. Certainly. Listen, I think we're gonna continue to talk about this and these themes throughout the show today. You're gonna want to stay tuned because we got so much coming up. By the way, later on in the show, Tristan Levitt from Empower Oversight is going to join us. Bram Weinstein to talk about the Washington Commanders. They've got a game this weekend. Neil Parrott as well, running for Congress out of Maryland 6, is going to join us. I'm Andrew Langer. She's Patrice Onwuka. It is 5:30 right here on O'Connor and Company, WMAL.
WMAL FM, Woodbridge, Washington, a Cumulus media station.
Making sense of the news.
News Talk 105.9.
News now.
On 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app.
O'Connor and Company.
Well, welcome back, everybody. I am Andrew Langer here on O'Connor and Company, WMAL. It is 5:37 in the morning. We are here. Listen, we've got all kinds of fun stuff to be talking about today. We're going to be joined in just a couple of minutes by, actually, not a couple of minutes, in the 7 a.m. hour by Tristan Levitt. He is the president of Empower Oversight. He represents the IRS whistleblower Gary Shapley to talk about Hunter Biden and his Alford plea. We've got Bram Weinstein, the play-by-play announcer for the Washington Commanders, to sort of preview this weekend's game. Neil Parrott, running for Congress in Maryland 6, is going to be joining us as well. This, of course, is O'Connor and Company. I'm Andrew Langer in for Larry O'Connor, sitting alongside Patrice Onwuka on this. We don't call it Friday here on Fridays, do we, Patrice?
It is a Friday, and good morning, Andrew.
Good morning and happy Friday to you. So... it's funny. As we go yet another day with yet another Kamala Harris flip-flop. Obviously, we were just talking about that on plastic straws, but no actual policy coming from the campaign. We get little snippets here and there on occasion, speeches. Donald Trump goes to the New York Economic Club and gives a detailed speech. Now, it's, again, and no matter what Donald Trump does, right?
Yes.
If Donald Trump is full of energy, they criticize him for being manic. If he gives a serious speech, they criticize him for being monotone. They criticize him for the things he says. They criticize him for the things he doesn't say. But nevertheless, this was a detailed speech. And Donald Trump is calling it like it is. Michael, let's go ahead and play cut number 3.
She is promising communist price controls, wealth confiscation, energy annihilation, reparations, the largest tax increase ever imposed, and mass amnesty and citizenship for tens of millions of migrants who will consume trillions of dollars in federal benefits and destroy Social Security and Medicare. They will be destroyed.
Right. Telling it like it is. I mean, listen, I don't dispute anything in what Donald Trump had to say there in terms of his sizing up of what a Harris-Walz administration would do. I mean, and then he goes on from there, and this is where I think we really want to go with this. So he talked a little bit more in detail about the creation of this commission to examine government regulations and government operations, similar to the Grace Commission of the 1980s. Let's play cut number 4.
Elon Musk, who has given me his complete and total endorsement. That's nice. Smart guy. He knows what he's doing. It's very, very much appreciated. I will create a government efficiency commission tasked with conducting a complete financial and performance audit of the entire federal government and making recommendations for drastic reforms. We need to do it. Can't go on the way we are now.
No, we can't. I'm sorry. Go, Patrice, your thoughts here.
Well, first, great for President Trump to really boil down his economic plan in her economic plan versus his. A very nice setup that the first clip that we played, which was great to contrast what he's offering, which is prosperity, which is power charging the economy right now, which is needed. And then I really like the idea of the commission, and what I really like even more is that President Trump has the gumption to actually follow through. Let's not forget, at the very start of the Trump administration, his first, I think it was the very first executive order, which was to say that for every new regulation, you would have to cut 2 regulations. Right. So that was a way of getting rid of all of the arcane, no longer useful regulations on the books if you're going to implement a new one. That put the onus on these federal agencies to actually think twice before they add once. And so I believe that bringing that back, in addition to this commission that's really going to go through this entire federal, the registrar at every agency, and find those ways where there are duplication, where there's redundancy, where frankly people are gaming the system on the taxpayer dime, is a fantastic demonstration that there is too much excess in Washington, and we can fight it.
I did not believe Don. We've been to this dance too many times, and for those of you who don't know, I outside of the media work that I do, the regulatory world is my world. That's my great passion. I know that's sad, but that's who I am. This is what we do. I find it vitally important. And in my lifetime, in the 30 years that I've been doing public policy in Washington, D.C., I've had presidents promise that they were going to be regulatory cutters, and the closest that we came was George W. Bush from 2001 to 2009, and even still under him, the regulatory state grew by about 10% over the course of his presidency. Under Barack Obama, cost of regulations were growing at about 9% per year, 10% per year, and under Joe Biden, they've been growing by 15% per year. So we're now at about a regulatory state that costs the American economy about $3.6 trillion annually. It's a huge sum of money. Under Donald Trump, the cost of regulation was only growing by about 1/3 of 1%. That is unprecedented in the modern era. Essentially keeping regulatory costs constant. And I never thought that Donald Trump was going to deliver on this promise, but he did. And so when he's talking about this, you're right. He will go and he will deliver on it. As Julie and I were talking about the other day, Patrice, one of the problems that we have, it's not just that there is this wasteful redundancy among agencies, right? That's the one thing. That's waste of a fiscal level. But the problem, of course, is when you have an administration like the Biden administration that is trying to use the tools of government to implement their ideology, When there's
Yes.
redundancy, it means that they don't necessarily just need to, if they're implementing an environmental agenda, they cannot just do it at EPA or the Interior Department or at Ag, but they'll do it at the SEC or the FTC or these other agencies, right?
Yes.
You think of, real quick before we go to a break, you think of HHS and price controls for drugs, right? But
Yes.
the National Institutes for Standards and Technology, who knew, they have a say in this, and so the Biden administration could go to NIST to do this. More to come on this. It is 5:44 a.m.
Coming up this morning at 9, right here on WMAL.
So these are they are complex economics issues, right? And we get into the issues of regulation, the cost of regulation, and the tax policies there. But at the end of the day, Patrice, we are really talking about kitchen table issues and how it impacts families. And I want you to talk a little bit about this, because you are a policy wonk, as I am, and I mean that in the best way. The work that you do, the policy work that you do. Talk about what you're hearing from the folks you work with at IWF as well.
Oh, for sure. So when we look at what the Biden-Harris administration has really pushed from a regulatory standpoint, it impacts your day-to-day ability to earn extra money, earn money on the side, be independent, be a self-employed, maybe you're a flexible worker. And when I look at her tax plans, I see someone who is taking away more of your money, and she'll say that it's only about the upper crust of society. But let's be real. There are lots of ways where we have seen, whether it's indirectly through inflation eating away at your paycheck, or frankly, when the corporation and the small business you work for has to increase their taxes and increase their prices, your pay may get cut along the way. So we that's why we talk about these policies, ideas. We want to hear what President Trump has to say, what Kamala Harris has to say, because their big picture ideas has an everyday impact on you, on your ability to earn, on your ability to keep more of what you earn, on your ability to one day have the American dream. And we've seen the affordability crisis really rob people of a good quality of life right now, but also of the prospect of a better future, of you being able to leave something behind for your grandkids, of your grandchildren having a better quality of life than you had because they're able to achieve more than you could. So I was excited when I listened to President Trump's speech. We talk about the regulatory impact, but of what he wants to do, cutting taxes, the efficiency aspect of it. I mean, there are lots of things that I think in his economic plan are just good common sense approaches to how we can grow our economy so that everybody gets more, rather than Kamala Harris. Her approach is, no, we're not going to grow the economy for everybody. We're just going to take what we have right now, probably shrink it because we're strangling it, and then we're going to cut up the slices in different ways, and hopefully maybe you might get a bigger piece than what you had before. That doesn't happen and never works out that way.
You know what I want to see? I'll tell you, because as Donald Trump talks about the 1 in, 2 out with regulations, and that's great. Don't get me wrong. That is a good proposal to go down the road. One of the things that I've been talking about for years now is a no net loss of time pledge, essentially giving a mandate to agencies that for every 15 minutes in paperwork burden you add to somebody or some business, you need to take away 15 minutes somewhere else. Time is the only resource that we can't make more of. I know it sounds kind of ridiculous, but agencies have to assess how much time it takes to do paperwork, and they always underestimate it. We don't need to get into that. The bottom line is, assume for a moment that what they're saying is accurate, and so when they want to add this burden, time is a finite resource. There are X number of hours in a year, X number of hours in employees' time. Time is money in these things. You can't make more of it. So if you're going to add to the paperwork burden, as Kamala wants to do, the Trump plan should be to also take it away elsewhere. Let's go here. He was talking about the tax cuts and no tax on tips, and Kamala stealing from him on this. Let's play cut number 6 there, Michael.
The fifth pillar of my plan is to make the Trump tax cuts permanent. They are massive tax cuts, biggest ever, permanent. And to cut taxes even more, and we will have no tax on tips, something which they copied 4 weeks after I said it. She got up and said, no tax on tips. I said, I just said that. She is actually copying a lot of my plan. In fact, we're going to send her a MAGA cap sometime in the next week. We're having a special one made. But we also know she doesn't mean it. She's going to stick with what her whole life has been about. And also, no tax on Social Security benefits. People on Social Security have been wiped out by inflation, and now on top of it, we tax their benefits. We're not going to tax their benefits.
Yeah, these are vital issues there.
Absolutely.
Patrice, I mean, hold on, because I wanted to get to this. This issue of the standard deduction that was in the Trump tax cuts and increasing that. Talk about how that helps families. I mean, this idea of, the idea of not having to itemize and expanding what you can do. This was big stuff. This was a transformational idea, at least as clear as I can tell.
Absolutely.
Your thoughts? Yeah.
Absolutely. So when we looked at some of the changes in the tax breaks, whether it's the tax credits or the standard deduction, I believe the standard deduction was expanded, and so more people ended up taking it rather than going through the additional paperwork of itemizing all the different deductions. And so that cut down your time and made it easier for you to submit a simpler tax form every year for a lot of families. The child tax credit, folks, that is a Republican idea from start to finish. The Democrats have hijacked the child tax credit and then morphed it into this weird monster that is disincentivizing work. The child tax credit is really just meant to give some families some extra boost, but it doesn't mean that it should incentivize people not to go to work to be able to take it, or turn it into a monthly check, which is what the Biden administration did. It kind of made it a backdoor universal basic income check. No, that's not what it's meant to do. It's just meant to be kind of that once a year boost because you have kids, and we know that the cost of kids can compound over time. So listen, I want to see the 2017 tax cuts in 100% for everybody.
Right.
They should not expire. They should be renewed. And then I want to see taxes cut down the line, particularly corporate, but also small business tax cuts. Small businesses are bearing the burden of a lot of the regulations, the time, and the inflation. And so it is disingenuous when you hear Kamala Harris talking about she's going to cut regulations and cut taxes, but that is exactly the opposite of what she and her boss 100%. Have done over the past 4 years. She's just saying what it takes to get elected.
Yep, no, without a doubt, and we know that the increase in regulatory costs over the last 3.5 years wipe out for small business that $50,000